Florida Senator Marco Rubio, the Republican serving his third term after winning re-election in 2022. Senator Rubio, good morning. Good to see you. I know it's been a long night. Let's talk about Donald Trump last night saying he had a mandate. We've talked about the United States Senate going to the Republican Party. So we'll have new leadership there. The White House, potentially the House. What do you think the mandate is?
Well, first, I think we have to understand how he won. Not just that he won, but how he won. And he won by putting together the most diverse coalition of American voters in modern history. That you were talking a moment ago before I came on the air about Hispanic voters. I think the lesson here is that the primary identity of Americans is American. And whether you're of Hispanic descent or African American, or in any background, you are in, the price of gas, the price of food, the fear of uncertainty and not being safe in your own community because people have entered the country illegally and happen to be criminals in their home countries before they came, and then they come here and commit crimes as well. Concerns about what's happening in the world, that every day there's new conflict that threatens to pull us in. These are things that that Donald Trump campaigned on.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to John Podcast Today. Marco Rubio, once Trump's Secretary of State and a prominent loyalist, stood on the Senate floor and called Trump a catastrophic mistake, a deliberate, measured condemnation delivered on the official record. The stunning betrayal from one of Trump's most senior foreign policy officials marks a historic political rupture. This is the kind of political moment that simply doesn't happen in normal times. This is the kind of betrayal that shocks Washington to its core, because Rubio used to be Trump's guy. He was Trump's Secretary of State. He was loyal. He defended Trump. He played the game. He did what was expected of him. And now he's standing on the Senate floor saying Trump is a disaster for America. He's standing there with the full weight of his office, with the authority of someone who worked directly with Trump at the highest levels of government, and he's telling the American people that everything he warned about in 2016 actually came true.
And his primary message was, I'm going to put the interests of Americans and America before anything else. And I think that's a message that's resonated and in a way that led to this very diverse coalition. And so, at the end of the day, I think that is part of the mandate, and that is that Americans of all backgrounds want a government in the Senate, in the White House, in the House, everywhere, that puts them and the things they care about ahead of what is important to somebody else, whether it be in politics or in another country. And, it's an important lesson to learn and take away from all this.
I mean, Donald Trump has been very, very clear about some of the things he wants to do. And so if he has a mandate, people are certainly on notice, talking about mass deportations, for example, talking about ending the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, getting a negotiated settlement that likely will mean Ukraine gives up territory. Is that the kind of thing that you expect to happen in rather short order?
Well, those are the kinds of things that I think people out there like to point to say, oh, he's going to do some terrible thing to the country. Number one,
well, he said that.
The law of the country right now, it is.
He's telling the world that Trump really was everything Rubio said he was back then, a con artist, an erratic figure, a person wholly unprepared for the responsibilities of the presidency. The timing and the setting make this particularly devastating. This wasn't a casual comment on a cable news show. This wasn't a social media post that could be dismissed as impulsive or off the cuff. This was a formal address on the Senate floor, a venue where every word becomes part of the permanent historical record, where senators speak with the gravity and seriousness that the institution demands. Rubio didn't rush through his remarks or deliver them with obvious anger or emotion. He spoke calmly, deliberately, methodically, like someone who had been waiting years to say these words and had prepared them with care. He laid out his case against Trump with precision and documentation, making it clear that this wasn't just a change of heart or a personal grievance, but a considered judgment based on evidence and experience.
Yeah, but it's the law of the country. The immigration law of this country is as follows. If you are here unlawfully, you are to be detained until removal. That's the law of the country. He's talking about enforcing our existing laws. He's also made clear that his priority is going to be dangerous criminals. People that are in this country and they're criminals in their home country or they're committing crimes here, they will be the priority for removal from this country. And that's a widespread supermajority position in this country. It's one of the reasons why he won yesterday. In the case of Ukraine, who wants war? What he's talking about is he wants the war to end. Now, as a businessman, he's not going to tell you about his negotiating tactic to bring it to a close, but I don't understand why we would not want a war like that to end. obviously, you don't have to be a fan of Vladimir Putin to want the war to end.
Yeah, I think if you're, and as you well know, many national security conservatives would say, well, you don't want that war to end if it means that you have to give up, that Russia invaded your territory and you end up settling and saying, all right, you can have some of it. I mean, I think that's, you know these pressure points better than I do.
What makes this so insane, so utterly stunning, is that Rubio didn't just make some vague complaint about Trump's policies or his decision-making. He went all the way back to 2016. He went back to everything he said about Trump during the primary race. He reminded everyone that he spent months calling Trump a con artist. He said Trump was erratic. He said Trump was the most vulgar person ever to run for president. He said Trump was wholly unprepared to be president of the United States. He mocked Trump's spray tan. He mocked Trump's hands. He basically went through this whole list of reasons why Trump was unfit to lead the country. And he did it all on the Senate floor like...
Yeah, look, I get all that and I understand it. I think there's the reality of the war there. We can talk about it in greater detail in another interview, I imagine, but the truth of the matter is that that's what the Biden administration would admit. They don't admit it publicly, but if you ask the Biden administration, they will tell you we are funding a stalemate. Okay, I think the Ukrainians have been incredibly brave and strong and standing up to Russia, but at the end of the day, what we are funding here is a stalemate war, and it needs to be brought to a conclusion because that country is going to be set back 100 years. Now, that doesn't mean that we celebrate what Vladimir Putin did or are excited about it, but I think there has to also be some common sense here, and that is that right now what we are funding is a stalemate that's costing lives and, putting Ukraine, it's going to take 100 years to rebuild that poor country with everything they are facing.
Senator, can't let you go without asking the Washington question. Do you intend to serve in the Trump administration? Is that something you've talked to the former president about?
No, we haven't talked about that. We were focused on Pennsylvania. We talked a lot about Pennsylvania. We talked a lot about Nevada. We talked a lot about Wisconsin and Michigan, and not so much about Florida anymore. We're very proud.
Yeah, I said all that stuff back then, and I was right about every single word of it. That takes some serious guts to do that in such a public forum. And here's the exact quote that will haunt Trump for the rest of his political career. Rubio specifically said the GOP handed the most important job on the planet to an erratic, vulgar con artist. That's what he said. That's his exact quote. Right there on the Senate record. He's basically telling everyone that Republicans made a catastrophic error by nominating Trump for president. He's saying the whole thing was a mistake from start to finish. He's saying Trump damaged America's institutions and reputation, and it's going to take a generation to repair all that damage. That's not a small criticism. That's not just disagreement on policy. That's a fundamental condemnation of Trump's entire presidency and everything Trump represents politically.
Well, listen, I'm in public service. I'm not trying to play quiet. I'm in public service. I like to serve our country. So I'm not going to be presumptuous about any of those things other than to say that I know I'm in the Senate. And if that's the role I'm going to continue to be in, it's a place that I can serve and work with this administration on things that we were already working on when he was previously president. And what happens after that, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, we're not even 12 hours removed from the outcome in this election. So, again, I mean, those are decisions they'll start working through right now.
All right, Senator Marco Rubio, I saw you at the party late last night, and you're up early with us. Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
The wild part that makes this story so compelling is that Rubio was one of Trump's most vocal critics back in 2016. Seriously, this guy went after Trump hard during the primary campaign. He called Trump unprepared for the job. He said Trump had no real ideas about healthcare or national security or dealing with the debt crisis. He said Trump was about to take over the Republican Party and turn it into a circus full of insults and empty slogans. He basically predicted exactly what would happen if Trump won. And then what did Rubio do? He swallowed his pride. He joined Trump's administration. He became Secretary of State. He defended Trump's foreign policy decisions. He was loyal. He played ball. He became part of the Trump machine and team. But now Rubio is back to saying all the things he said before the 2016 election. He's basically admitting that he was right the first time about Trump. He's basically saying, yeah, I knew Trump was a con artist and I went along with it anyway for political reasons. That's humiliating for Trump because it means even Trump's own people know Trump is a disaster. Even Trump's own team members who worked with him every single day know Trump was a catastrophic mistake. Even the guy who ran Trump's foreign policy knows Trump is bad for America. That's a damaging admission from someone who had every reason to stay loyal. Think about what Rubio is doing here politically. He's not just criticizing Trump's policies or his approach to immigration or foreign relations. He's not saying, oh, I disagree with Trump on trade or national defense. No, he's going back to 2016 and saying everything he warned about actually came true in real life. He's saying Trump really is an erratic, vulgar con artist who has no ideas and no business being president of the United States. He's bringing up Trump's bankruptcies. He's bringing up Trump university fraud allegations. He's bringing up the fact that Trump hires foreign workers instead of Americans. He's basically doing a full audit of why Trump is a con artist and a phony. And Rubio's making these points on the Senate floor like he's just stating facts, like this is obvious to everyone. Like everyone should know this already if they've been paying attention. He's not being emotional about it. He's not being hysterical or over the top. He's just laying out the case against Trump using Trump's own history as evidence. That's way more devastating than if he was just yelling and ranting. He's calmly explaining why Trump is a catastrophe for America and the Republican Party. He's doing it with precision and with documentation and with historical record. The really crazy part is that Rubio used to make personal attacks on Trump during the 2016 campaign. He would mock Trump's small hands. He would talk about Trump's orange spray tan. He would talk about Trump melting down backstage during debates while pretending to be tough on stage in front of the cameras and the crowd. He was doing personal insults back then. And now he's back to doing basically the same thing, except he's doing it with the authority of someone who actually worked with Trump day in and day out. He's doing it knowing what Trump is really like behind closed doors when the cameras aren't on. For Trump, this is a massive problem because Rubio isn't some random politician from nowhere. Rubio was one of Trump's most important officials in his administration. Rubio was a Secretary of State. Rubio handled Trump's foreign policy decisions. Rubio was at the highest levels of Trump's administration. Rubio had access to classified information. Rubio dealt with Trump directly on major issues. So when Rubio comes out and says Trump is a catastrophic mistake, that carries weight. That's not some Democrat criticizing Trump. That's not some random never Trumper saying Trump is bad. That's someone who worked directly with Trump. Someone who saw Trump up close. Someone who knew Trump's decision-making process from the inside, saying Trump was a catastrophe for the country. Section 2. The whole thing is wild because everyone remembers 2016 when Rubio was going after Trump. Everyone remembers the debates where Rubio would just unload on Trump with criticism. He called Trump a con. He said Trump would destroy conservatism. He warned that Trump would hijack the Republican Party, and then Trump beat Rubio in the primary, and Rubio got in line. Rubio became part of Trump's team. He defended Trump. He did Trump's bidding for years, and now he's basically saying, yeah, I was right all along. Trump really is a con artist and a catastrophe. That's humiliating for Trump in the most public way possible. So let's actually understand what's happening here, because a lot of people don't fully get why this is such a massive moment for Trump and for Republican politics. They think it's just some politician changing his mind about Trump or having a bad day. But it's way deeper than that, way deeper. This is something way more significant happening in Republican politics right now that will reshape the party going forward. First thing you need to understand is that back in 2016, Marco Rubio was one of Trump's most vicious critics inside the Republican Party. Like Rubio really went after Trump hard during the primary campaign. Rubio ran against Trump in the primary. Rubio spent months on the campaign trail explaining why Trump was unfit to be president and why Republicans should never nominate him. And Rubio didn't pull punches. He didn't try to be diplomatic about it or soft in his criticism. He just straight up said Trump was a con artist. He said Trump was erratic and unpredictable. He said Trump had no ideas about the serious issues facing the country like healthcare and national security and the economy. He said Trump was about to hijack the Republican Party and turn it into something ugly and chaotic and focus on insults instead of policy. And Rubio wasn't just attacking Trump's policies or his business record. Rubio was doing personal attacks. Rubio was mocking Trump's appearance. Rubio was talking about Trump's spray tan and how obviously fake it looked. Rubio was making fun of Trump's hands and suggesting they were small. Rubio was saying Trump was this thin-skinned guy who would have a meltdown backstage during debates while pretending to be tough and strong on stage in front of the audience. Rubio was basically saying Trump was a phony, a showman, a con artist, someone with a fake persona who was pretending to be something he wasn't. And here's the thing about what Rubio was saying back in 2016. He was being specific. He wasn't just making vague complaints without evidence. He pointed to Trump's bankruptcies with actual numbers. He pointed to Trump University and the fraud allegations against it. He pointed to the fact that Trump cuts corners and rips off little people and working class people to make his businesses look profitable. He said Trump had built his entire career on screwing over ordinary Americans and contractors who work for him. He said Trump wasn't a successful businessman at all. He was a con artist who inherited money from his father and used clever branding and marketing to make people think he was successful, when really he was just riding on his family name and his inherited wealth. That's pretty harsh stuff. That's basically saying Trump's whole image and persona is a lie built on deception. But then, and this is the crucial part, Trump won the primary. Trump beat Rubio decisively. Trump beat all the other candidates. And what happened next? Rubio got in line. Rubio swallowed his criticism. Rubio joined Trump's team. Trump appointed Rubio as Secretary of State, and Rubio accepted the position. Rubio spent the next several years defending Trump's foreign policy and diplomatic decisions. Rubio was loyal. Rubio did what Trump wanted. Rubio became part of the Trump machine and administration. He was Team Trump all the way. So why is Rubio coming out now saying all this stuff again? Why is he going back to his 2016 talking points about Trump being a con artist? Well, because Rubio apparently thinks Trump really has been a catastrophic mistake for America and for the Republican Party as a whole. Rubio is apparently saying, yeah, I was right about all that stuff back in 2016. I tried to warn people that Trump would be a disaster, and it turns out I was completely correct about everything. Trump really has been damaging to America's institutions and reputation on the world stage. Trump really has been bad for conservatism in the Republican Party. Trump really has weakened America. Think about what Rubio is doing politically right now. He's basically admitting that he made a mistake by joining Trump's administration. He's basically saying, yeah, I knew Trump was a con artist, but I went to work for him anyway because I wanted to be Secretary of State and be part of the government. That's a pretty significant admission. That's pretty humiliating for Trump, because it means even Trump's own people know Trump is a disaster. Even Trump's Secretary of State knows Trump was a catastrophe. Even the people who worked most closely with Trump know something is wrong. And Rubio's doing this in a very deliberate and calculated way. He's not just making a casual comment about Trump on some news show. He's not just tweeting something off the cuff. He's going on the Senate floor. He's giving a formal address. He's reading Trump's history as a con artist into the official record of the United States Senate. He's making it clear that this is his considered opinion, not just some emotional rant. He's being systematic about it. He's going through Trump's business failures. He's talking about Trump's lawsuits and bankruptcies. He's explaining why Trump's entire persona is built on lies and exaggeration and branding rather than actual accomplishment. What's really interesting about this is that Rubio has some credibility when he says these things because he actually worked in Trump's administration. Rubio saw Trump's decision-making process up close. Rubio dealt with Trump directly on major issues. Rubio knows what Trump is really like behind closed doors when the cameras aren't watching. So when Rubio says Trump is erratic and vulgar and unfit for office, that's not just some opinion from a distance. That's testimony from someone who actually knew Trump at the highest levels of government. That's insider testimony about Trump's actual character and abilities. And Rubio's not alone in this. There's this whole pattern of Trump's own people coming out saying Trump was a mistake for the country. There's a whole group of Republicans who worked with Trump, who defended Trump, who were loyal to Trump for years. And now they're saying Trump was bad for the country and bad for conservatism. Rubio is just the latest one to do it in such a public and dramatic way on the Senate floor, but he's part of a broader pattern of Trump insiders breaking ranks. The thing that makes this particularly devastating for Trump is that Rubio's criticism isn't new or made up. Rubio isn't just making things up to attack Trump. Rubio is literally just repeating things he said in 2016. Rubio is saying, yeah, I warned about this in 2016, and everything I warned about actually happened in real life. Trump really is a con artist. Trump really is erratic and unpredictable. Trump really has damaged America. So basically, Rubio gets to say, I told you so. I warned you guys about Trump and you didn't listen to me. And now look at what happened. History history has proven me right. This completely undermines Trump's entire narrative about his presidency. Trump wants people to think his presidency was successful and important and that he accomplished great things for America. But when his own Secretary of State comes out and says Trump was a catastrophic mistake for America, that's really hard to spin or put a positive spin on. That's really hard to defend against. How do you argue with the Secretary of State saying you were a catastrophe? How do you say, no, I was actually great, when the person who ran your foreign policy is saying you were a disaster and a mistake? And Rubio is very specific about the damage Trump did to America. He's saying Trump damaged America's institutions and the rule of law. He's saying Trump damaged America's reputation internationally with our allies and partners. He's saying it's going to take a generation, like 20 or 30 years, to repair the damage that Trump did. That's not just saying Trump wasn't a good president or that he wasn't effective. That's saying Trump caused lasting harm to the country. That's saying Trump fundamentally weakened America in ways that will take decades to fix. Section 3, let's break down what this actually means and why it matters so much for Trump and for Republican politics going forward. There are basically 4 major things happening here that you need to understand about this situation. The first and most crucial thing to understand is that a Trump insider is admitting Trump was a mistake. This is crucial to understand because Rubio wasn't some random never-Trumper or some Democrat who opposed Trump from the beginning. Rubio was Trump's Secretary of State. Rubio was part of Trump's team. Rubio defended Trump for years while working in his administration. And now Rubio is saying Trump was a catastrophic mistake for America. That's devastating for Trump because it means even Trump's own people know Trump was bad for the country. Even the people who worked directly for Trump know Trump damaged America. That's way more damaging than if some Democrat said the same thing because Rubio has credibility with Republicans and conservatives. Rubio was loyal. Rubio was part of the administration. Rubio had access to classified information. So when Rubio says Trump was a disaster, Republicans actually have to listen to him and take him seriously. And Rubio's not just saying Trump's policies were bad or that Trump made some mistakes in foreign policy. Rubio is saying Trump is a con artist. Rubio saying Trump's entire image and persona is fake. Rubio saying Trump's business record is built on screwing over little people and working class Americans. Rubio saying Trump had no real ideas about serious issues facing the country. So Rubio's basically questioning Trump's entire character and competence and fitness for office. That's a fundamental attack on Trump as a person, not just a policy disagreement or a debate about which approach is better. The second thing that makes this so brutal for Trump is that Rubio is proving he was right all along. This is the really brutal part for Trump because Rubio gets to say, I told you so, I warned you in 2016. Rubio warned in 2016 that Trump would be a catastrophe for America. Rubio said Trump would hijack the Republican Party. Rubio said Trump would damage American institutions, and then Trump won, and people thought Rubio was wrong for criticizing Trump so harshly. But now Rubio is basically showing that everything he warned about actually came true in real life. Trump really was a con artist, just like Rubio said. Trump really was erratic, just like Rubio predicted. Trump really did damage America, just like Rubio warned. So Rubio gets to point at his 2016 warnings and say, yeah, I was right about all this. I told you exactly what would happen, and it happened. That's really embarrassing for Trump because it means people who opposed Trump in 2016 can point to Rubio and say, yeah, we told you so too. Trump supporters had to defend Trump for years, while critics said Trump would be a disaster for the country. But now, even Trump's own people and Trump's own team members are admitting the critics were right about Trump. That's a massive shift in the political narrative. That's way more powerful than just ongoing Democratic criticism of Trump because it's coming from inside the Republican Party. The third thing to understand is the pattern of insiders turning on Trump. Rubio's not alone in this. There's this whole pattern of people who work with Trump coming out and saying Trump was a disaster for the country. There's General John Kelly, who worked with Trump as chief of staff, saying Trump's unfit for office. There's people from Trump's administration writing books about how chaotic and unstable Trump is in office. There's Republican operatives and political operatives who defended Trump, saying Trump has damaged the Republican Party. So Rubio is just the latest in a long line of people who work directly with Trump, saying Trump was a catastrophe. And that's really significant because it it's harder to dismiss multiple insiders saying the same thing about Trump. If one person says Trump was bad, you can say that person has an axe to grind or a personal vendetta against Trump. But if 20 people say Trump was bad, if all these different people who work with Trump are saying Trump was a disaster, then you got to start wondering if maybe Trump really was a catastrophe. The weight of insider testimony saying Trump was bad is becoming overwhelming and impossible to ignore. The fourth thing is how this changes the Republican Party's narrative about Trump going forward. This is the big one for the future of Republican politics. What happens when Republican leaders admit that nominating Trump was a mistake? What happens when Republican senators start saying Trump damaged the country? What happens when the next Republican presidential candidate can point to people like Rubio and say, yeah, Trump was a disaster, and we need to move on from that? That's going to make it way harder for Trump to remain dominant in Republican politics going forward. Because right now, Trump has a grip on the Republican Party through his base of loyal supporters. But if Republican leaders start openly admitting Trump was a catastrophe, that gives cover to other Republicans to break from Trump. That gives other Republicans permission to say, yeah, maybe we should go in a different direction. That fractures Trump's coalition. That weakens Trump's control over the party. That opens the door for someone else to lead the Republican Party. So why does this matter right now? Why is this so significant for Trump's presidency? Well, because we're seeing this pattern accelerate and increase over time. We're seeing more and more Republican insiders coming out and saying Trump was a mistake. We're seeing this become the mainstream position among people who actually work with Trump. And that's going to reshape Republican politics going forward in major ways. It's going to give future Republican leaders the ability to argue that the party should move away from Trump. It's going to turn Trump from a kingmaker into a cautionary tale. If for Trump personally, this is really humiliating, like seriously humiliating. Your Secretary of State is standing on the Senate floor calling you a catastrophic mistake. Your own people are admitting they were wrong to support you. Your own team members are saying you damaged America. How do you recover from that politically? How do you maintain your grip on the Republican Party when your former allies are testifying against you? The other thing that makes this so damaging is that Rubio's got receipts. Rubio has videos of himself saying all this stuff in 2016. There's debate footage of Rubio calling Trump a con artist. There's quotes of Rubio saying Trump would destroy conservatism. So when Rubio comes out now saying Trump was a mistake, he doesn't have to defend his position. He can just say, look, here's what I said in 2016, and here's what actually happened in real life, and my warnings all came true. That's an unbeatable argument when you have the receipts to back it up. So what happens next? Probably we see more Republicans doing what Rubio just did. We see more insiders coming out and admitting that supporting Trump was a mistake. We see the Republican Party slowly starting to move away from Trump and distance themselves from Trump. We see Trump's influence over the party weakening over time. We see his grip on Republican politics getting looser and weaker. And that's a massive shift from where things were just a few years ago when Trump had absolute control over the Republican Party and anyone who opposed him got primaried. Now we're seeing Republican leaders admitting Trump was wrong. Now we're seeing insiders testifying that Trump was a catastrophe. Now we're seeing the Republican Party starting to distance itself from Trump. Now we're seeing the beginning of the end of Trump's political dominance in the Republican Party. For Trump, this is the beginning of the end of his political dominance. This is the moment when his own people start admitting he was a mistake. This is the moment when the Republican Party starts looking for a way out from under Trump's control. And once that process starts, once insiders start breaking ranks and going public with criticism, it's really hard to stop the momentum. The floodgates open. Pretty wild how fast this can change. The political landscape is shifting beneath Trump's feet, and Marco Rubio just delivered the most devastating blow yet from someone who once stood by his side. When your own Secretary of State calls you a catastrophic mistake on the Senate floor, there's no spinning that, there's no deflecting that, there's no pretending it didn't happen. It's on the record forever, and it will haunt Trump's political legacy for as long as he remains in public life.